What do you say on the Monday after disaster? I don't know. What do you think the Morning Pitt looked like on the day after, the Monday after the Titanic went down? No, that's being overly dramatic. This isn't the Titanic sinking, but Pitt's loss at Wake Forest was a disaster of its own design, and quite frankly, a disaster of Pitt's own design. Because as we sit here on the Monday after that loss at Wake Forest, a ridiculous loss, one of the stupider games of football that we've all watched, well, I can't say that our thoughts have changed all that much, but let's talk about it. Let's try and get the week started here on the Morning Pit on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, it's Monday. New week is started here on the Morning Pit on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com is the website for the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. We've got it all at Panther-Lair.com and message boards to talk to other Pitt fans. And we drop some little news and nuggets on the message boards from time to time. Saturday morning, afternoon, before the game started, before the football game, we had some news and notes on Pitt's secret scrimmage, the Pitt Hoops team's secret scrimmage against Georgetown. If you didn't check out some of those stats and numbers, I think you should, because they're pretty encouraging. And if you're looking for something to feel good about, something to make you feel better about yourself, well, that would certainly be something that would, I think, will brighten your day a little bit. Probably more than continuing to think about this Pitt football team and the loss at Wake Forest. But that's what we're going to talk about today. But my point is, if you're on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com, you get a lot of stuff there. You get a lot of news, a lot of info, a lot of information, and info and information. That's how comprehensive we are at Panther-Lair.com. And then, our YouTube channel here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's where we put all our video content, these daily Morning Pit videos, Monday through Friday. Our weekly live show that we do every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Me and Jim Hammett hang out for an hour to talk about Pitt sports with you, with your comments and questions. We have our live show, which is always lively, pardon the pun, but we do those after every game, and certainly the live show after the Wake Forest game was very lively. I suspect the one after the Notre Dame game is going to be equally so. Win or lose, the live shows after the game, the post-game show, the post-game live stream is always jumping, as the kids might say. I don't even know if they say that anymore. But it's a lot of fun, and we have a good time, so hopefully you get a chance to join us. Again, with your comments and questions, because you can line up in the chat screen over there and put all your comments and questions, and we have a little bit of back and forth. We have an interaction and conversation, and I enjoy it. Win or lose, those are my favorite shows to do. Of the Morning Pit, the live streams, all that stuff. The post-game shows are a lot of fun. And then, of course, we got to talk about home field. We always talk about home field. Every Monday, I remind you, you need to go to homefieldapparel.com. You got a case of the Monday doldrums. You make yourself feel a little bit better with some sweet gear from homefieldapparel.com. Look, you can have your own debate and discussion about how Pitt looked in those white-on-white uniforms in the Wake Forest game, whether they look good or look bad. You can look good by going to homefieldapparel.com and getting some of their sweet Pitt gear. They have gear for, t-shirts, sweatshirts, joggers, dad hats, bomber jackets, all this stuff for schools all across the country. They have like 150 schools represented there, and some of the sweetest logos you are going to find, all on a high-quality shirt. It holds its shape. It's super soft. And so you get a really high quality shirt and some of the best looks that you're going to get, some of the best Pitt graphics and designs. It's great stuff. And so you might feel bad about Pitt, but that doesn't mean you have to look bad. That doesn't mean you can't still look good and wear some sweet Pitt gear. So go to homefieldapparel.com to get the latest of what they have there. And use the promo code LAIR23, LAIR23, to get 15% off your first order. Don't forget, homefieldapparel.com, promo code LAIR23, LAIR23, 15% off your first order. All right, so it's been not quite 48 hours, depending on when you're watching this video. We're taping this video less than 48 hours since the end of Pitt's loss at Wake Forest. And, not a lot has changed, and this is often the case. Not a lot has changed in terms of our perspective, our opinions on that game since the end of the game. And that's usually the case. It's very rare that we come in here on Monday morning and we're like, after thinking about it, I feel okay about this, or I'm really angry about that. My thoughts on that game are pretty much the same as they were when I hit go on the live stream right after the game ended. Not much has changed. The only difference is I don't have a bottle of whiskey next to me, which, if you caught the live stream on Saturday, it was our first two-shot post-game show. And that's not a cinematic thing, although I started wondering if we did a a 2-shot live stream where, like, you know, the forward angle and then forward angle. I could edit it together, have 2 cameras set up, but we're not doing that, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about shots of whiskey. But my thoughts are largely the same. Obviously, looked at the slide play more in over the course of the weekend. A lot of people had different angles yesterday. A lot of different things you could look at. A lot of people were bringing up the Jordan Travis slide for Florida State, where he clearly is starting the slide a yard or 2 short of the stick, and apparently was given a first down on the play. My conclusion is this, all right? Letter of the law, as hyper-specific as possible. Yeah, Christian Veer probably started his slide. He starts to bend his knees before the ball crosses, I think he had to get the 17. So before the ball crosses the 17, he starts to bend his knees, which I guess is technically the start of the slide, right? And so, yes, letter of the law, hyper-specific. I mean, they spotted the ball about where the ball was when he started to bend his knees, which I guess technically is the start of the slide, which is where it's supposed to be spotted. It's never spotted like that. It's never spotted like that. Never. And that might be letter of the law, but that's never how it's applied. It's applied, just by watching the play and saying, yep, he slid over the first down marker. He slid over that line. And by the way, if you go with the way the rule is applied 99% of the time, Christian Veer has a first down there, Pitt wins the game. Christian Veer could have avoided leaving it up to the official's judgment by, Pat Narduzzi said, diving head first. He could have also just kept running and run out of bounds. He was clear there, and even going out of bounds, that's fine. Yeah, you're going to stop the clock, but you're going to force, you have a fresh set of downs, you're going to force Wake Forest to take multiple timeouts. Use the last 2 timeouts, and you'll run enough off the clock. You'll end the game. You win the game with the first down there. He left it up to a judgment call because of where he slid and because of the decision to slide. Diving, running out of bounds, both of those accomplished the goal. So, technically, yes, he was probably down, and the ball probably should have been spotted where they put it. Technically, yes. Did they get screwed on the call? Probably, yeah, to a certain extent. I think you can make a pretty good case for that using the precedent of every other slide play that's ever been called in the history of football since they started ruling guys down. The quarterbacks could give themselves up on a slide. Yeah, you probably could have, by practical application, Christian Veer had the first down. But just like I said after the game, and just like I said throughout the weekend in different conversations on the message boards and on Twitter, and just like I'll say today, and I'll continue to maintain, they blew this game not by getting screwed by the refs on that call. They blew this game by going 10 possessions and only getting 3 points out of them. Scoring a touchdown on the first drive, and that's great, but the next 10 possessions, they got 3 points against a lousy Wake Forest defense. Don't give me that Wake Forest played good defense. Don't give me that Wake Forest somehow rose to the occasion and really made it tough on Pitt. Don't give me that, because Wake Forest is not good. All right, Wake Forest stinks. Okay, and I don't care if the 35 Wake Forest fans out there who are really loud on social media find this. It's you're saying that Wake Forest stinks, but they beat Pitt. They did beat Pitt. All right, Pitt is 2-5. Wake Forest is 4-3. So yeah, they are what their record says they are, and Pitt is what Pitt's record says it is. But Wake Forest stinks. They're not a good team, and they should be a team that finishes with 4 or 5 wins, and I don't imagine they'll win much more than that. There's no reason Pitt should have gone 10 possessions and only gotten 3 points out of those 10 possessions. That's a failure. That's a failure of the offense. And I think there are a lot of reasons why the offense failed. Christian Veer misfired on a few passes. Some run blocks were missed. This or that, drop pass, whatever it is. But this is a poor offense. It operates poorly. It's executed poorly. It's designed poorly. Every part of it is poor. And I say that as someone who was generally impressed or largely impressed with some individual performances here. I thought Christian Veer actually was pretty good in this game. Not perfect, not great, but pretty good. And certainly enough came of his performance in this game that you're encouraged, or you should be encouraged going forward, or I'm encouraged going forward. I think Bub Means now has had 3 games in a row, and I know one of those games we're talking about is Virginia Tech game when he had 1 catch, but that 1 catch was 75 yards and a touchdown. And he's added up now 3 really good games in a row. He's caught a touchdown in each of those 3 games. He has his first career 100-yard receiving game at Wake Forest on Saturday. He played really well, made good catches, and made big plays. The last 2 catches of the game, his last 2 catches of the game, probably the biggest among them. The catch on the sideline to get a first down to the 21, and then the touchdown catch from the 21. Bub Means, really outstanding performance. I think the offensive line pass blocked well. The run blocking still leaves something to be desired, but I think they pass blocked well. And I think they've done that for 2 games now. Christian Bear has been sacked once in his 2 starts. And it's not like he's escaping pressure all the time and they're letting guys through and he's a magician out there. That's not the case. I think he's had a few times when he's dodged pressure or made a quick throw against a blitz. But by and large, I think they've protected him well enough. But this offense went into a black hole. It disappeared for 10 straight possessions, short of a field goal. And that's why they lost this game. And yeah, we can point to, like I did on the postgame show, there's that 23-second stretch where you have, MJ Devonshire gets the interception at the minute 108 mark. Or the play started at the 108 mark. MJ Devonshire gets the interception. You get Donovan McMillan with the 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Panarduzzi, I don't know about that. They never call that. McMillan earned both of those. McMillan earned both of those unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, for sure. And that turns a first down for Pitt at the 37 into a first down for Pitt at the 7. That is a huge, huge change. Huge. Then they get the ball. On 2nd and 9, Blake Zubovic gets called for a holding penalty. Now, that didn't hurt them in terms of yards. Wake Forest declined the penalty to force a 3rd and 9 because they got 0 on the run anyway, but it stopped the clock and saved Wake Forest a timeout. They would have had to they called a timeout before that play. They would have had to call their 2nd timeout instead of being able to hold on to another timeout. Excuse me, which they ended up calling their 3rd timeout before the 4th and 1, their own 4th and 1, where they got 24 yards and set up the game-winning touchdown. That Blake Zubovic holding call was a huge mistake because it stopped the clock instead of forcing Wake Forest to take another timeout. Then the Bear slide. Another error. And even if I believe he got the first down and he believes he got the first down and everybody who watches it believes he got the first down, everybody other than those 35 Wake Forest fans, they all believe he got the first down. You can't leave anything to doubt. You've got to get past the sticks. You've got to go out of bounds. You got to dive, whatever it is. Or if you're going to slide, you got to make sure you're past the sticks before you start to slide. And then the punt, a 32-yard punt. And all of these things in the span of 23 seconds compound to give Wake Forest an opportunity to win. The 30 yards of penalties, the holding call that stops the clock, the Bear slide that's short of the stick, and then the 32-yard punt. They all conspire to give Wake Forest, with its 3rd-string quarterback and its offense that could barely score over the course of 3 previous ACC games when they went 0-3, it gives them a chance to win. That's what those mistakes did. They handed an opportunity to Wake Forest. But the reality is, through the course of those 10 possessions I'm talking about, when Pitt only scored a field goal, that was where Wake Forest was truly kept in the game. That was where Wake Forest was truly given a chance to win the game. I said this after the game on Saturday, and I'll say it again right now. If you score a couple times on those possessions, if you score a couple touchdowns, let's say in the first half, you don't just score 1 touchdown and end up going to halftime and tied at 7-7. Let's say you score 2 more touchdowns, which you should have been able to do against this defense. You end up going to halftime with a 21-7 lead. And more importantly, Santino Marucci and the Wake Forest offense go to halftime trailing 21-7, thinking, oh God, we got to try and win the game. We're going to have to throw. We're going to have to make big plays. The game is on us now. We're down by a lot. And guess what? When you put the 3rd-string quarterback under pressure like that and you force him to feel like he's got to win the game, you know what's going to happen? Mistakes, interceptions, like the MJ Devonshire pick, like the PJ O'Brien pick. You force him. You put some pressure on him and make him make those throws to try and win. Now, yeah, he made a couple throws at the end to win. But if he comes out of the locker room at halftime feeling like he's got to do that because he's down by 2 touchdowns, you're going to get more interceptions. You're going to get more opportunities to turn the ball over, and you're going to win the game. Okay, because the third string quarterback is not going to lead them back from being down 2 touchdowns. But instead, you go to the locker room at halftime and it's tied 7-7. And Marucci and the rest of the offense are thinking, okay, the pressure's not on us. We can keep running the ball. We just have to do a little bit. We just have to not screw up. It's okay. We're good. We're in this game. The offense kept them in the game. The defense did what they were supposed to do. The defense did what they needed to do, even though they gave up 3 touchdowns at the end. For, the final touchdown was scored with like 12 seconds left to play. So, for what? 59 minutes and 48 seconds, the defense gave up 2 touchdowns. The defense didn't lose this game. The defense gave Pitt a chance to win. The offense just had to take advantage of it. The offense just had to capitalize, and they failed to do so. And here you have a game where they scored 2 offensive touchdowns. Do you know this is the 14th time in the last 20 games that Pitt has scored 3 or fewer offensive touchdowns in a game? Dating back to the start of last season. 20 games, 13 last year, 7 so far this year. 14 out of 20, they've scored 3 or fewer offensive touchdowns. You tell me, how many games are you going to win when you score 3 offensive touchdowns or 2 offensive touchdowns? We've had 5 out of 7 games this year where they've scored 3 or fewer offensive touchdowns. 4 out of 7 where they've scored 2 or fewer offensive touchdowns. How many games do you think you'll win if you only score 2 offensive touchdowns? The answer is you'll be 2-5. 2-5. Why is Pitt 2-5 right now? Why did Pitt lose to Cincinnati? Why did Pitt lose to West Virginia? Why did Pitt lose to Wake Forest? And quite frankly, why did Pitt lose to Virginia Tech? Because I'm going to throw every loss in there except North Carolina. It's because of the offense. And some of that was sticking with a quarterback who wasn't good, and some of that is just bad offense. Because they changed the quarterback to a player who looks, to just about everybody in this world except for maybe 1 or 2 people, looks like a better quarterback. And yes, they still ended up losing this game. It's because that quarterback didn't solve everything with the offense. But he did take them down the field on their first touchdown drive and completed 6 of 8 for 64 yards, including 4 passes on third down. That seems pretty good. I think it was 4 passes on third down. Yep. 3 of those 4 being to Kenny Johnson, including the touchdown pass on the first drive. And on their last touchdown drive, he went 4 of 6 for 67 yards. So on the 2 touchdown drives, Christian Bear went 10 of 14 for 131 yards. In the 10 possessions in between, he was 17 of 29 for 133. So he has 131 yards on those 2 drives, 133 yards on the 10 drives in between. I mean, 10 possessions. And they score 3 points and have 133 passing yards on 10 possessions. That's not the quarterback being bad. That's bad offense. And I'm not going to say Christian Bear is perfect. I'm not going to say he made every throw. He missed throws. There's no question about it. They had a 4th down where he threw to Kenny Johnson. I don't even think it was close. He had a number of passes that were off the mark. And his accuracy is never going to be great. He's never going to be a 65, 70% passer on a consistent basis. He's probably going to be in the 50s for the most part. But he's shown he's got the arm talent to make the throws. He can find the openings. He can find the holes. And he can shoot through the zone. That pass, the touchdown pass to Kenny Johnson was a great throw. Throw to Bub Means on the sideline. The touchdown throw to Bub Means. Throw to Gavin Bar. I mean, he's good. He's fine. They need to run block better. There's no question about that. But these receivers, I think, have been better than I expected. I shouldn't say they've been better than I expected. I think they're showing some signs. I mean, I think Bub Means is coming into his own. Kanate Mumfield, I think, is a player. And we should have known that coming into this season. We should have talked about him more. Dejon Reynolds made a couple of big catches in this game on Saturday. Kenny Johnson is looking like he's going to be a star. Gavin Bartholomew's Gavin Bartholomew. I mean, there are players on this team. There are players on this team. There are quality players on this team. But when they go 10 possessions without scoring a touchdown, they go 10 possessions and all they can get is 3 points. Something's broken with the offense. And it's been broken. It's been broken for a while. And whether it can get fixed in the course of a season, I don't know. Probably not. Can it get fixed over the course of 2 seasons? Can it get fixed over the course of an off season? Maybe. There are probably some ways to do that. But they're stuck with what they're stuck with right now. And they're stuck in what they're stuck in right now. And as a result, they're 2-5. And so all the mistakes and the bad calls and all those things that happened at the end of the game, yeah, that eliminated Pitt's chance to win the game. Like, they could have snuck out of Wake Forest with a win, a whatever, 17-14 win, if they just made like one fewer mistake. If Donovan McMillan didn't take 2 conduct penalties, if Blake Zabovic didn't get called for the holding, maybe, if Vair goes past the lead stick, obviously, if Caleb Junko's punt goes 42 or 52 yards instead of 32, just take one of those mistakes out of there, and they probably get out of there with a win. They could have escaped with a win. They could have won a game where they only scored 2 offensive touchdowns, where they went 10 possessions and only scored 3 points. They could have pulled it off. But they didn't. And the reason they didn't is because they left themselves in a position where mistakes could kill them, where a bad call from the officials could sink the ship. And it did. I always said, like going back to Dave Wannstedt, it's like if you keep the game close, then you let one of those mistakes or bad calls lose the game for you. If you can't put a team away in the second quarter and the third quarter, then you allow fourth quarter craziness to lose you a game and cost you a win. And that's what happened to Pitt on Saturday. And it's not the first time, and it probably won't be the last time. It probably won't be the last time this year where they let a team hang around, where they play good defense and generally keep the score low, but they let a team hang around because they can't score themselves and put a team away. And so they're 2-5. And that's how they're 2-5. That's why they're 2-5. And they've earned it. I mean, they've earned this record with play like that and making those mistakes. All right, we're going to have a lot to talk about this week for sure. We're going to keep talking about the offense, Christian Vair, Bub Means, Sibo Flemister, the run game, all these different things. I mean, we're going to talk about the defense a lot too, because I have a lot of thoughts about the defense from that game, but there's so much to talk about just with the offense that I figured on Monday we had to start it off there. We'll have Pat Narduzzi's press conference later today. That'll be at noon. We'll have that video up here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any of our video content. youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Head over to Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to get the Pitt sports news and message board conversation that you so desperately crave. And then go to homefieldapparel.com to get the sweet Pitt gear that you so desperately crave. And remember, use the promo code LAIR23 to get 15% off your first order. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you had a great weekend, aside from the Pitt game on Saturday. It's going to be it's the start of a new week. It's the start of Notre Dame week. That's always something fun to look forward to. We'll have it all covered for you at Panther-Lair.com and right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So like this video and subscribe. We appreciate that, and we will talk to you tomorrow on the Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.